Before we get into today's episode, this one is brought to you by Flowdesk, the email marketing platform I use to run my own newsletter at Line Creatives. If you've been putting off starting an email list or you're on a platform that just isn't working for you, Flowdesk is worth a look. The templates are beautiful, it's easy to use, and it's built for small business owners. Get 25% off your first year at flowdesk.com/c/Line Creatives, but I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes. All right, let's get into it.
Someone was asking us about planning a trip once, and I pulled out my phone because we had someone on a custom trip, and I said, yeah, look, she's got us in her pocket on her trip. And I had, tons of chats with her about like, okay, take the bus here and do this. And this woman was so impressed that she booked us too for her trip to Italy. But how common is that, right? To have someone so invested in your trip. Kelsey said to me once after we had about 60 people abroad at the same time over spring break last year, she said, whew, I just felt like I had everybody's happiness in my hands.
Welcome to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Line Creatives. I'm Svenja Line, and in each episode, I sit down with local business owners and entrepreneurs to share their stories, how they got started, what keeps them going, and what makes their business stand out. My goal? To help more amazing businesses be seen, supported, and celebrated. So grab your coffee, because this might just get creative. Welcome back to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast on brand strategy and entrepreneur stories. Today's conversation is about what happens when two people turn a shared passion into a real business and what it actually takes to build something meaningful from scratch. I'm joined by Amanda Cisneros and Kelsey Wilson, the co-founders of Travec, a culturally immersive travel company based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Travec specializes in group and family travel experiences designed to go beyond sightseeing, staying in apartments instead of hotels, connecting with locals, learning the language, and coming home changed. Amanda brings a background in Spanish education. She has a master's in Spanish from Middlebury College, spent years teaching and leading student trips abroad, and opened her own language academy before Travec. Kelsey brings a background in global studies, sales, and higher education, and has spent her career finding ways to weave travel and culture into everything she does. Together, they've built something they describe as transforming vacations into life-changing journeys. Today, we're talking about how they started Travec, what the co-founder dynamic really looks like day to day, the challenges and wins of building a travel business, and what their rebranding journey taught them about showing up online. Amanda and Kelsey, welcome to the show, and I'm really glad you're both here.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Thank you so much.
So this is the first time since I had the podcast that I have two guests. So I hope this is going to be working out. So before we really get into all the questions, tell me a little bit about the business, how it got started. I think it was in 2022. Amanda, you want to talk a little bit about how it started?
Correct. 2022. Yeah, Kelsey and I met through our daughters. They were 5 at the time, and they were in kindergarten together at a Spanish immersion school. They still are in school together. And it was just after COVID, and so we met at a beach to go on a beach play date because we had to be outside. And we just got to talking about, our lives and our passions for travel. And Kelsey was working at a company that did international travel short-term for people, and that sounded really neat to me. It sounded like something that I wanted to know more about. I was teaching Spanish to adults, and I had been kind of thinking, like, how come adults can't go on trips like high school students or college students where they are really interacting with locals? And then just being moms, we brought that to families too, and thought, well, wouldn't it be great if families could have kind of culturally immersive experiences abroad and travel with their kids and expose them to new cultures? So that's how it came to be.
That's awesome. I just had a conversation with someone yesterday, and she talked about that same, I don't want to call it problem, but fact that there's not that many cool vacations for, for moms. Yeah. So you said that you had an Ed Connect language academy already.
Yes. Yep. So after teaching Spanish in a traditional school setting for 17 years, I started a company to teach Spanish mainly to adults. So I do evening classes, lunchtime classes for adults online and in person so that they can either learn or improve their Spanish.
That's awesome. And Kelsey, you want to maybe chime in and how it got started for you?
Yeah, definitely. Similar to Amanda, when we met that first time, I mean, we had crossed paths a little bit in school swapping, but our daughters had become good friends, and it was crazy how similar our backgrounds were. Like, we both had education background, we both had Spanish language background, both just had this passion for like showing our kids the world. And I think, like, as Amanda said, as moms, we wanted to bring that to families, but also knew how intimidating it could be for moms to try to give that experience to their kids in terms of like local connections and culture and just being intentional with the trip. So yeah, I think that's where the seed was planted, and we really dove in like head first. Like, we talked about it for a little bit. And then I, had some life things to figure out. And once that was set, we met at a coffee shop really close to our houses, and we're like, okay, well, where do we want our first trip to be? And we just kind of use that as a launching point, and we were just one foot in front of the other. We didn't have this like great elaborate business plan with investors and the whole 9 yards. It was really just us thinking like, we can do this. We have the passion for it, and we know there's a need for it, and let's see if it sticks.
I think that's really cool, because I think the best ideas and the coolest businesses are stemming right from that, just from that idea, and then just doing it.
Yeah. It's like what we said before the podcast, Svenja, about how you wanted to start a podcast, but you didn't know how, and then you just went for it.
Yeah.
You just have to go for it without overthinking.
Exactly, because I think that's sometimes the problem, that when you start overthinking and investors and all that, it gets so complicated that in the end you're like, oh, I'm not gonna even try.
Yeah, it gets complicated, and you start to think like of all the reasons why you can't, instead of just like, why not try?
Yeah, no, I really like it.
And I think travel is the same way, too. Like, you can talk yourself out of it and think about why it's too much work or too hard, and then you just call us and go for it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, that's especially when you have your business, and then you have the kids at home, and then you have, I don't know, you have the dogs and family and all that. So just to say, hey, I'm just going to go. This is what I'm going to do. Sometimes it's a little, complicated.
Yeah, I had a client recently who told me, we see this a lot in our travelers. Like, they're so excited. They're like, oh, what you do is so cool. I want to do this with my family. And like, as quickly as they get excited about it, life starts to happen, right? And so I recently had a client who told me, next June, I'm not going to regret having gone to Peru, but I might be sitting on my couch regretting not being in Peru. So like, I think that's a great way to put it too.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I talked to some friends over the weekend, and we are talking about going to, oh my God, where is it? New Orleans? New Orleans? Is it New Orleans? To run a marathon.
Oh, wow.
And I love the idea, love it, and I really want to do it. But then at the same time, it's like, when do I have time for this? And then it's like, because it's not that close, usually it's closer. So anyway, so I just, that's another thing where I just have to say,
you just have to commit and then figure it out.
Exactly. So running a business with your partner, how does that go? How is the dynamic? How do you divide tasks? And
Great question. Loaded question.
Yeah.
It's great. Amanda and I often refer to our business partnership as an arranged marriage because we didn't know like that much about each other entering in. And so we had to figure out both of our, and we're still learning every day, but we had to figure out both of our like personality quirks and strengths and weaknesses, like as people and in business. So there was a lot of layers to it, but I think the great thing about having a business partner is you share your wins with someone who's like equally as excited as you are about it. Like my husband's excited for me, but you know, like, so I think that, yeah, they're not as invested. Yeah. So that's really, really fun to have someone who's just like your partner in crime by your side through the good things, through the bad things. But yeah, I definitely say it's a learning curve. And the great thing about Amanda and I is I think we have really different strengths and weaknesses within the business, but we're always very closely on the same page in terms of like decisions that we make and just like back to our passions and like what we're really here to do. And so that's really great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We did some coaching with someone who did kind of like a strengths analysis with us, and that was really helpful to reinforce and learn more about how we're different and how we're similar. We often joke about it because way back in the beginning when we started, and like Kelsey said, okay, where are we going? What's our first trip? We had our girls had a day off from school, and so I brought my daughter over to Kelsey's house, and they played, and we started planning our first trip. And I was just digging in and like doing all the research and going down rabbit holes about different things that we wanted to include in the trip. And Kelsey was more like the overarching idea of the trip and like big picture. And then we got done, and I was like, so energized, and that was so fun. I just love like working on this together and figuring it all out. And Kelsey was like drained because she's more of a divide and conquer type person. And in her mind, she's like, oh my goodness, I feel like we wasted so much time because we could have just like divided and conquered and done that twice as fast. So we really have had to work on that, and it's not easy. But we're divvying up our roles better now and figuring out where our strengths lie and who does what in the company, and where we need to come together and do things together too. So it's always a learning process, like Kelsey said.
Yeah, we're humans at the end of the day.
Yes, I can imagine, because when I just think about my own business, and you know, when I have an idea, I just have the idea. I don't need to bounce it off of someone, you know. I don't need to. Sometimes I wish I would have someone that I could bounce ideas on, because sometimes you have lots of ideas and then they can't all be realized. So,
True.
Yes. And then sometimes you go off.
Go ahead.
And sometimes you go off in a completely different direction, and you know, you have this idea, and then, but in the end, it doesn't really, like, you shouldn't spend so much time and effort into that idea because it might not be.
That's true.
That fruitful, I guess.
True.
You know. Yeah.
Totally.
Kelsey, you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say, like, yeah, Amanda's story with the, you know, detail and overarching, it's like, it's just a perfect illustration of like a lot of like our roles too that we take on. Like, she's more of the logistics and like planning out every detail of the trip, because that is energizing to her, and she's so good at like making sure no details fall through the cracks. And I'm like, big picture, let's draw the circle and we'll make it perfect later. You know, I was like, let's get something on the drawing board. So it does, even our like small strengths and personality quirks like that turn into our roles in the business, which is fun.
So you kind of complement each other, because just imagine you both would be the same. Then I think it would be very challenging if you would have the same personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I think just as many like struggles that we have to make sure that we're like match. It's just struggles loosely because we're often on the same page, but like there's so many pros to that too, right? Like we get so many, like I used to think I was an ideator. Amanda's like next level idea. She has an idea about everything and it's fantastic, and we get so much good from that. And then I'm able to say like, okay, here they are. Let's move the needle on these different places. So we do complement each other really well, and that's been, I think, a huge reason for our success.
That's awesome. So talking about these trips, so just so that we all understand a little bit more about the trip itself. So do you arrange and organize the trip for, let's say, one person or two people that want to go on vacation, or do you more focus on group experiences?
Yeah, great question. So we kind of have two sides of our business. So the first side is the group adventures, and those are groups of families, generally between 6 to 8 families, who are taking a trip together to one of our signature destinations. And the signature destination piece is really important to the cultural immersion part of our business. So the reason we have signature destinations and the way that we chose them is because we have deep local connections in those cities. So we're able to provide that like next level of cultural depth in that experience. So in those cases, we plan trips that anyone can join, or we partner with schools, often Spanish immersion schools, to plan a trip for just their families in their school. So that's one side. The other side is our custom side, and that side you dream it, and we help make it a reality. So you can go anywhere, do anything for as many people as you want. We've done honeymoons, we've done multiple family custom group trips, we've done solo, we've done month long, we've done 4 or 5 days. So that is totally like whatever you want it to be, that side.
Yeah. I think
Awesome. So
I think the story that's the most fun from those two types of trips is that we had a school trip for families, and 7 families went on that trip to Medellin, Colombia. Their kids went to the same school, but they didn't know each other that well. And it was specifically for 4th graders. So they all had a 4th grader and then had other kids as well. And after the trip, their words, they all fell in love. So they asked us to plan them a dream destination trip where they all went together again to a new destination. So that one is a dream destination, but it's for 7 families, and they're going to Argentina and Uruguay. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. So so when you said, so the kids then, and the kids, or I'm assuming the adults as well, they go then to the schools at this location?
Yes.
And learn Spanish. And how long is the trip? Because I like, it's probably not going to be a weekend.
Sorry,
because
no, the kids don't usually go to school in the travel destination.
Okay.
They go to school together every day at home in Michigan.
I see.
We do school visits sometimes on some of our trips as part of our immersion activities. But yeah, it's usually just a day or 2.
Mm-hmm. And the typical trip for a group is 7 to 10 days. So obviously with schools, we tend to plan them in the big breaks. So summer break, winter break, spring break. So our spring break trips are more around that 7-day mark, where our winter and our summer trips are more around the 10-day mark.
Yep.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming that everybody's encouraged to speak the language then, right?
Yes.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the group. Like a lot of our school groups, especially if they're a Spanish immersion school, there's definitely more emphasis on the language component. But then we also have like plenty of families who send their kids to regular traditional schools, and the language becomes like a small component, and they learn some words.
Yeah.
And oftentimes our local connections are excited to practice their English with our families that speak English. So language becomes a different type of, immersion or piece in that trip. So it really just depends on the audience.
And a lot of times,
Yeah, but what are really,
I was just going to say, a lot of times with our schools, the kids know Spanish because they go to immersion schools, and then the parents don't. So we encourage the kids to speak Spanish, and to speak Spanish with the local leader, the city host. But sometimes the parents don't know. So it's a mix.
but what a cool experience especially for the kids to just go somewhere and really experience the culture of that
Yeah,
destination that they are going to. And that's really cool. I like that.
absolutely. We just had a little girl come back from a trip who goes to a Spanish speaking immersion school, and she's about 10 years old. And during one of the activities, they cooked with a local kind of a grandma figure who is a great cook and just really great with kids, but she doesn't know any English. And so she went to their apartment where they were staying and she cooked with them. And the little girl said, you know, I've always been too shy to speak Spanish outside of school, but with Doña Eli, this cook, I had to because she doesn't know English. And it really empowered me. And I felt like I had a purpose being able to speak Spanish with her. So it was kind of a epiphany for her, right? Like, hey, I can use this outside of school and it's a real thing. And sometimes I even need it to be able to communicate.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we will be right back. If you're a business owner and you've ever wondered why your brand isn't pulling its weight, I built something for you. It's called the Brand Audit Scorecard, and it's completely free. 10 questions, takes about 5 minutes, and it'll show you exactly where your brand is strong and where it's losing you clients. You can grab it at linecreatives.com/brand audit scorecard, and the link is in the show notes. All right, let's get back to it. So my next question is actually about the whole market, because there is so many travel agents, there is so many companies that organize group trips, that organize special vacations. So, I mean, we already talked about this a little bit, but where are you different, genuinely different from others?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can start. So I think one of the very first things we said on the podcast of like why we exist is different from a lot of other companies. We're not a travel agent in the traditional sense where like travel agents get paid a commission for the place that they book you. And so they have like certain destinations in mind and they have certain specialties, where we're designing trips on the custom side, true to you and your family and your experiences without any outside influence like that. On the group family adventure side, there are not a lot of companies that focus on the full family unit and have an itinerary that's conducive to a 1-year-old and an 18-year-old, and maybe they bring grandparents and a 75-year-old. And so when we're building our trips and we're building our itineraries, not only do we have that cultural component in mind that's unique, but also like how can we make sure that everyone can enjoy this trip and that it's conducive to all ages and the full family unit. So I think that's another differentiator. And then just the balance of our trips. Like we're moms, we know that our kids can't sit on like a tour bus for 8 hours or 12 hours on a day trip. So just the balance of activities, the time spent on transportation, the flow of the events. You know, we usually have an activity forward day with then a free day to explore and give you tons of suggestions and activities that you can do around town, and then another group activity. So lots of different dynamics there, I guess, but those I would say are like the key differentiators. I'm sure Amanda has some to add.
No, I agree 100%. And just the culturally immersiveness of our trips is really unique. How many companies will connect you with locals. We have the city host who is leading the group. She lives in the city. She's a native. She speaks the language. She's familiar with everything in the city. And then we also have city friends, and the city friends are families that have volunteered to get to know our travelers and to join them at the welcome party, to go out with them during the week. We pair them up based on kids' ages and interests. And it's just such a unique experience to be able to connect with locals in that way. You know, sometimes our travelers are invited to their city friends' homes. In Spain, they were invited to their home for paella. I mean, how many travel agents can do something like that for their travelers? So it's just really meaningful. Kind of our tagline is travel with intention, and Kelsey and I are really intentional about creating those opportunities.
So how did you get into contact with the locals, and how did you find the people that friends that how you called them? How did you make that
You're
contact?
asking us all our trade secrets, Svenja.
Oh, an overview, not
No,
all
I
the secrets.
no, I think when I talk about the signature destinations and being very intentional about the places that we go, it's because we either have existing connections or we have a way to have and build good connections. Luckily, before Amanda and I met and started this business, like travel was already a passion of ours. So both her and I have traveled pretty extensively. Amanda did her master's in Madrid, Spain. So that was our first destination. She had a ton of contacts there. She lived there for 2 years. So she just knows the city very, very well. So yeah, it's all like boots on the ground. It's not unfortunately, don't tell anyone. It's not a magic secret that we can look up locals in a place. But it is a lot of work, and we're really grateful for the locals that spend the time with our families. And a lot of families have kept those connections over the years now, because we're 3 years in, so that's exciting. They still get like WhatsApp voice messages from their friends on their birthdays and stuff. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even tell Kelsey this yet, but I think it was last weekend. We had one of our city friends from Spain is living in Ohio, and we're in Michigan. And every once in a while, he makes his way up to Michigan, and he met with the family that they were paired up with on their trip to Spain. So they just met for coffee and caught up, and that was just amazing. Like, that's why Kelsey and I started this company. So those stories are success stories for us.
Yeah, it's so impactful for the kids too. I think like I look in hindsight at my life, I look at like, the pivotal moments where something big happened that ended up like leading my career. And definitely one of like those moments was my first international experience in 7th grade. I went to Guatemala with my dad on a mission trip, and I was like so out of my element. I didn't speak any Spanish. We had no language classes like in our middle school or anything yet. We did in high school. But I remember like trying to write Spanish words in my journal, and like the spelling was horrendous. It's pretty funny to look back on because I still have it. But looking back, I can pinpoint that experience as like, okay, that's why, I grew up in this small, like little bubble of a town, suburbia, Midwest USA. But that's why I chose like to study Spanish in high school. I traveled to Spain in high school. I studied global studies in college, and it all is like, I can link back to that trip, just my mind being open to like, oh my gosh, there's so much more in the world than my little, town of Rockford, Michigan. So I hope, with this experience, oftentimes parents talk to me about like, oh, my kids are too young. They won't remember. Like, I want to wait till they're in high school. I want to wait. And I'm like, don't wait, like it was just such a cool experience for me at 12, 13. Like, yeah, it impacts every kid at every age, just in a different way.
Absolutely agree. So talking a little bit about building Travec, what was the hardest part so far?
I think there's been a lot of hard parts. I mean, I think, on the creative front and like positioning ourselves, one of the like really exciting but lengthy processes was we went through a rebrand. Initially, when we started our company, Amanda had her language academy. So, and, very similar like missions and clientele, we thought. And so we built on that for ease and for access. And because she already had like some good brand recognition in our area. But we realized that like, while there's some crossover in the clientele, that we really wanted to be our own brand standalone. So that process was something neither of us had been through. And it was a lot, like choosing a name and colors and logos and fonts and brand voice. And we threw ourselves into it pretty thick. So that was fun, also difficult. And I think the other part that I would say is a difficult part of building is being okay with pivoting from ideas that you were really excited about. I think both Amanda and I thought we would have more traction with like language teachers, and that we would have more traction with families wanting to go places for a longer period of time. So initially, one of our big offerings was a signature month experience where families would go and immerse themselves in the culture for a month. And we were so excited about this idea. And we still are. And we still have, a handful every year that want that extended travel. But having to say, okay, like, even though we love it and we would do it, it wasn't our bread and butter. It wasn't going to be our bread and butter. And so we had to be okay with pivoting and meet people where they're at. So I would say those are, for me, the two standout, like difficult, I guess, mountains, but worth the climb.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would also say that one of the ongoing challenges is how do you grow and make it sustainable at the same time? So with growth, obviously there's more work, and it's hard when you're a small company and you have, two people that are fully invested, and then you might have some people working for you, but you start something new or you get more business and you can't always pass it off right away, or you need to train somebody to be able to pass it off, but you're just trying to keep your head above water. So I think just like processes and operations have been an ongoing challenge for us. And also just because of our personalities, like Kelsey said, I'm an ideator, and Kelsey jumps in and does what needs to be done. And then neither one of us is necessarily thinking about like the processes behind it all, because that's boring. we don't want to do the boring stuff.
Yes, I agree. That is a very good point that you addressed, because and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they are struggling with the same issue.
Absolutely.
You want to grow, but then because that means that you have to hire people, and those people have to follow the same standards that you have.
Right. And your standards in your head, but you might not have those processes in place yet on paper.
Exactly. Yes. Just starting with a job description, because sometimes it's hard. We know what to do. We know how it works. We have the connections. And so just to put down a job description for something that might just be a virtual assistant, because sometimes I feel like that I was looking into hiring a virtual assistant for me, but then I have the issue with just writing down the tasks. Right.
And at the end of the day, like when you own your own business and you've grown it, like it's one of I have 3 kids. It's like another child, right? You have like so much pride in it, and you have just built this thing that you want to care for so well. And like, is not to like say anything negative on anyone, but like no one is going to care for that the way you do. Just like no one cares for the kids the way you do, right?
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, you can have like the best like people working for you in the world, and we have an amazing team. And so Amanda and I struggle with like exactly that, like how do we communicate what we want, and also deciding like where do we let go, because to grow we can't have our hand in everything. It's impossible. So it's exciting. It's exciting, but it's challenging. Every day is like, okay.
I would add to that we had an experience where it was hard to find someone that did it like we would, right? When we looked for a social media person, we struck out a number of times because they just weren't getting it, like they weren't getting our branding and our voice, and they didn't have our passion, right, and our knowledge. And now, thankfully, we have an amazing person that does a bunch of our social along with Kelsey, and it's great. But it took definitely a few strikes before we found that person. And it took a lot of training and education on Kelsey's part too, to show her exactly like how we do things.
Yeah, and that's
the
a very important part, yes, to really carry the brand voice, to carry the graphic, to the fonts, the color, everything that your brand stands for needs to be translated into every material that you send out.
Yeah. And not only that, but like just the overall feel. Like, are you able to connect with the mom that we're trying to connect with, right? The mom that wants to give her kids these experiences. And so
Yep.
yeah.
So going back to the rebrand, because that's kind of what I'm specializing in. What would you recommend to someone that is just starting out? Like, let's take you guys. Like, if you would have known about the whole branding, or if you would have done the branding process right from the beginning, do you think that would have been different to doing it later on?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I would say take the, Amanda and I were so eager and excited to dive right in, which I think was great. Like, I don't know if I would have done it differently, but to someone starting out, like, take the time and the investment to really get your branding right from the start. Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting question, because I also think that because we were able to understand our product and our demographic a little bit better before we branded. And that was what Kelsey was saying when we had to pivot on the type of product and the type of people that we thought we were selling to. So I think in some ways we were lucky with that, because if we had branded at the beginning, I think it would have looked a lot different. We didn't know that our demographic was necessarily going to be like moms and families. And so our branding is pretty feminine, and we try to connect with moms. So I think in that way it worked out for us. But one thing that we did before the rebrand was that we took the time to research different companies that we wanted to work with. And that makes a big difference. Like, you need to find someone that understands you and can connect with you, and that is able to represent your voice and, give you some options that you are interested in, right? And not everybody that we talked to did that. So I think we ended up choosing a very good company that did a great job, and we love our brand. But we definitely put time and thought into who we chose.
Yes.
And I think that's a very important aspect of developing a strong brand, that you don't have to rebrand again in 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to find someone who doesn't just create your logo and then, here you go. Because there's lots of beautiful logos out there, but if the strategy is not there, then the logo can be as beautiful as it is, but nothing happens,
True.
Yeah, it's the voice and the reasoning behind the brand, I think. And so when we chose our company, like, they just got to know us so well, and like what we were after, like even down to our name. So Travec is not like a word, right? And so they took travel, and the word avec in French is with. And so it's travel with intention. And then we play on that all the time, like travel with knowledge, travel with support, so travel with confidence. And so that's like, we love that about our brand, even though not everyone knows it first sight or first look, but we do, and it tells a story, and we're able to use that in our marketing as well.
But that's the important part, and that is what sets the company that you work with apart from others, because there is this forward thinking, the thinking, okay, we're creating this name, and we can do things with this name, and even if the name is not immediately recognized at what it is, you have the opportunity to tell that story on your social, on your website, everywhere you go. You can tell that story, and that makes your business even more special. Because there's thinking behind the brand. And that is a very important part. If anybody wants to create a business or thinking about rebranding, really work with someone who knows what they're doing. who knows,
Yes.
who wants, who develops the strategy
Absolutely.
with the future in
Yeah.
mind.
And I think it was helpful too. Our branding company was comprised of women who are our ideal client. So that made it easy too.
Yeah.
You know, if we would have gone to a 55-year-old man, like, no offense to them, but that's not our demographic necessarily. It can be, but
No.
it's not our majority demographic. So they just got
Yeah.
us. They just understood, which was really important.
Yes, absolutely. In the little form that you filled out, you mentioned that navigating AI in your business, is that difficult? Is that a benefit? Is that what I mean? AI has positive sides and negative sides. So I'm interested in learning what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you just said it. With every huge pro, there's a huge con. I mean, in terms of our daily work, there are ways that AI can make your work much more efficient, especially if you've taught it what you need to teach it, and it's an extension of your like brand voice and everything. It can definitely improve efficiencies, but you also need to be careful that you don't lose like the human element, right? Because as in my opinion, as AI progresses, what's going to be a huge differentiator is like who's human then. Now, like that's going to be really important in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think there's a fine line there. Yeah, I don't know. That's my initial reaction. Amanda, what do you think?
I agree. It really can help with efficiency. But I don't think you can ever rely on it 100% because you just lose that personal connection. So we definitely try to use it where it's helpful and then tweak it. Yeah.
I agree with that, because when you now read the social posts and you read, I don't know, even on LinkedIn, I always love the AI responses to your comments, because they all sound so polished, you know?
Yeah.
It sounds so perfect.
A little too polished,
And it's like,
right?
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this person really, really, really like looked at my post, then went on my website and got into details for a post where it's like,
It's like a
okay, I had a
politician.
good weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always have the perfect answer for sure.
Yeah. So, and it's like, oh my God. So, and I think what you said, Kelsey, with being human, that is how you differentiate yourself, and this is how you stand out in this now perfect world where everything is just so polished.
Yeah.
If there's a little tweak, with reference to what I do with design, of course, AI can design.
Right.
They can create graphics, but those graphics are just like the post. They're just too polished. They don't say anything because they are just pretty to look at. So, but if there's little mistakes that only humans can make, you know, there's like little extras that are in there because they have the meaning, they translate the voice off that brand. It's so different to what AI can create.
Yeah, that's something that I like am really passionate about, is showing up as myself like in every facet, and I think that helps with making sure I show up as human in an AI world, because like professional Kelsey, friend Kelsey is Kelsey. Like Amanda can attest to this. I just kind of am who I am. And I also think, and Amanda's the same way, and I think that like a lot of our travelers like us and choose to travel again because of who we are as people too. They can trust us. They know that we're showing up like firsthand, front lines. And so, yeah, I think, being human, I think, you know, Amanda talked about coaching and like the stuff that we do. And one of the things that we've recently done is work with a coach on like, what are our values, like externally and internally as a team. And ever since the beginning, one common theme that has come up, even as like AI progresses and before, is like genuine human connection is one of our values and always has been. And so I like that we're thoughtful about maintaining that human component through. Yeah.
And our trips are very human forward, if you will. Not only with our connections in the destinations, but our Kelsey and I and our team are boots on the ground when you're abroad. Like, we're on a WhatsApp chat with you and we're checking in personally. We are giving you recommendations. We're looking at your pictures and living vicariously through your trip. And I think that's another thing that makes us unique, right? Someone was asking us about planning a trip once, and I pulled out my phone because we had someone on a custom trip, and I said, yeah, look, she's got us in her pocket on her trip. And I had, tons of chats with her about, like, okay, take the bus here and do this. And this woman was so impressed that she booked us too for her trip to Italy. But how common is that, right? To have someone so invested in your trip. Kelsey said to me once, after we had about 60 people abroad at the same time over spring break last year, she said, whew, I just felt like I had everybody's happiness in my hands. And that's exactly how we feel, because we love travel so much and we're so passionate about it. And we just want everybody to be able to experience that in its fullest, at its prime. So we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that happens. And that you can't do that with AI.
No, you cannot. And that personal connection, if you would lose that personal connection, then I don't think
you would lose
business
brand.
would. Yeah, you would totally lose it. I don't think this is possible without the human connection.
Yep, absolutely.
So we are already at the end of our little chat, and I have a little fun fact segment in here as well. So Amanda, you wrote that you have hosted 8 international students in your home, and including visiting one from
China.
one from China.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, when my oldest daughter was really little, we had a lot of extra space, and there was a need at the school where I was teaching for people to host international students. So we opened up our home for them. Both my husband and I had lived abroad, so we understand the importance of having a stable and loving place to stay when you're abroad, especially when you're young. So yeah, we had 5 girls from China, 1 guy from China, and then 2 girls from Mexico. Wow. And it was fantastic. My daughter was in preschool in Chinese and Spanish immersion, morning and afternoon. So it was super cool, because one time one of the Chinese students was speaking in Chinese, and my daughter said she's talking about pumpkins. So it's been really fun. And Kelsey and I have both worked in the student placement field as well, just because we're so passionate about exchanges. And not everyone can travel at this moment in their life. So if they can't, the next best thing is to host.
Yeah. No, I agree. When we had our student visiting from Germany, that was before COVID, and so we had the extra bedroom, but then COVID happened, and then so we rearranged the extra bedroom into an office. So now we don't have the extra space anymore, and I'm really sad, because I still get the emails from that organization that referred the students to us. So I wish, like, maybe when the kids are, on their own in college, then we'll do it again.
Yeah.
But right now we just don't have the space for it. But Kelsey, and you already talked about this, but your 7th grade trip to Guatemala. Yes. Anything? I mean, we talked about it already, but anything specific?
I did. When you said fun facts that we wrote, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I?
I know, I couldn't remember either what I wrote down.
Yeah, no, I would say, what's interesting about that trip too is, like, those connections have even come for full circle present day. Like, there was another dad on that trip, and he reached out to me maybe 6 months ago, and he works now in coffee in Honduras because of that same trip to Guatemala kind of like launched him on a different career path. And so we met for coffee, and he is much older than me. But we talked about like, oh, when can we get a trip up and running to Honduras? And so like, yeah, it just goes back to, you never know like what event in your life is going to trigger, something more and something bigger. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Really awesome. So for anyone listening, how can they get in contact with you?
They can get in contact with us a couple different ways on our website, traveltravec.com. So that's travel, and then Travec is TRAVEC.com. We have all of our public trips on there, as well as you can take a sneak peek at any partnership opportunities or do a consultation form for custom travel. And then to see some of our live action videos and footage and all of that, definitely follow us on social. And same thing, you can look us up at Travel Travec on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure to link all those in the show notes.
Perfect.
And
we're excited to hear from all your
really
listeners.
Cool conversation. Yeah, really cool conversations, and it's really special what you're doing. And I definitely have to check it out because my daughter, to be totally open, my daughter said she will never ever take more Spanish in her life because she was in Spanish honors, and for some reason that did not work out well. But she speaks German, so I guess that's okay.
Well, maybe a trip to a Spanish-speaking country will reignite the flame.
Maybe. So yeah, so we will definitely check it out. So and if this episode resonated with you, with the listeners, please share it with someone who needs it or who needs to have a little push to book a trip, a special trip. Subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you next time on This Might Get Creative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Line Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves discovering local businesses and creative entrepreneurs. You can learn more about my work at linecreatives.com or find me on Instagram, line.creatives, and LinkedIn at Line Creatives. Until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep getting seen.